I used to think monsters only lived in the dark. That they hid under beds. Inside closets, waiting for the right moment to strike. But I was wrong. Monsters don't always have fangs or claws. Sometimes, they smile at you across the dinner table. They pretend to love you. And sometimes, the scariest place in the world is your own home.
Lena had always been close to her mother. Ever since she was a little girl, Sarah had been her safe place, the person who tucked her in at night. Who made her favorite tea when she was sick. Who held her hand when she was scared. For years, it had been just the two of them, especially after her father's sudden passing. Those were difficult times, but Lena and her mother had learned to rely on each other. Their bond was unbreakable. But then Daniel entered their lives. Sarah had met him at work. He was charming, polite, and kind. He brought laughter back into her life when she thought she had forgotten how to smile. And most importantly, he seemed to love Lena like his own daughter. At first, Lena wanted to like him. She saw how happy he made her mother, how he helped with things around the house, how he tried to be involved in her life. He asked about her school, her friends, her interests. Everyone around them thought he was the perfect addition to their small family. But something never felt quite right. It was nothing obvious, nothing Lena could clearly point to. Just small things, a look that lingered too long, a hug that felt slightly off, a presence that made her uneasy. She told herself she was overreacting. He was just trying to be a good stepfather. Wasn't he? The first time she felt real discomfort was when he knocked on her bedroom door late at night. "I just wanted to check on you," he had said. Lena had pretended to be asleep, her heart pounding. He hadn't done anything wrong. But why did it feel so wrong? She never told her mother about it. Sarah was so happy. She deserved to be happy. And Lena didn't want to be the reason that happiness was ruined. So, she stayed quiet. And she ignored the growing sense of unease inside her. She had no idea that silence would only make things worse. Lena had always trusted her instincts. Ever since she was a child, she could tell when something didn't feel right. And lately, something about Daniel felt wrong. It wasn't anything obvious. He never raised his voice at her. He never said anything inappropriate. But the way he looked at her sometimes made her skin crawl. She started noticing small things, things that could have easily been dismissed. Like how he always found a reason to touch her. A pat on the shoulder that lingered too long. A brush against her arm when passing by. The way his hand would rest on her lower back when he stood too close. She told herself she was imagining it. He's just trying to be nice. That's what her mother always said. Daniel really cares about you, Lena. He's trying his best to be a good stepfather. Lena wanted to believe that. She needed to believe that. But deep inside, something told her she shouldn't. One evening, Sarah had to work late, leaving Daniel and Lena alone in the house. It wasn't the first time, but this time, it felt different. Lena finished her homework and went to her room early, locking the door behind her, a habit she had recently developed without really knowing why. She lay in bed scrolling through her phone when she heard a soft knock. "Lena?" It was Daniel. "Can we talk?" Her breath caught in her throat. "I'm tired," she called back, hoping he would go away. "Just for a minute," he insisted. Lena hesitated before getting up and unlocking the door. Maybe she was being paranoid. Maybe he just wanted to talk. She opened the door just a crack. "What is it?" Daniel smiled, but something about it felt off. "I just wanted to check on you," he said. "You've been acting distant lately." Lena swallowed hard. "I'm fine." Daniel sighed, leaning against the doorframe. "You know, I try really hard to make you feel comfortable, Lena. But sometimes, I feel like you don't appreciate it." Her stomach twisted. "I do. I'm just tired." He reached up, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "You're so beautiful, just like your mother." Lena's entire body went rigid. Something inside her screamed danger. "I have to sleep now," she said quickly, stepping back and shutting the door. She turned the lock, her hands shaking. On the other side, she heard Daniel chuckle softly. "Good night, Lena. She didn't respond. She climbed into bed, pulling the blankets over her, trying to shake off the feeling of his touch on her skin. That night, she barely slept. Something had changed. She wasn't safe anymore. Lena woke up the next morning feeling exhausted. Her body was tense, her mind clouded. She barely remembered falling asleep, but the uneasy feeling in her chest hadn't gone away. At breakfast, her mother was cheerful, sipping her coffee as she scrolled through emails on her phone. Daniel sat across from Lena, acting as if nothing had happened the night before. "Did you sleep well, sweetheart?" he asked, smiling. Lena's grip tightened around her fork. "Yeah." Her voice came out flat, emotionless. "Good," Daniel said, taking a sip of his coffee. "We should spend more time together. Maybe we can watch a movie tonight?" Lena forced a smile, but inside, she felt sick. Her mother glanced up. "That sounds nice. Lena, you've been so busy with school. It'd be good for you to relax." Lena wanted to scream. "Can't you see it, Mom? Can't you feel that something is wrong?" But Sarah didn't notice the way Lena stiffened. She didn't see how Lena's hands were clenched into fists under the table. Because why would she? Daniel had never done anything that looked wrong. And Lena had never said anything to make her mother think otherwise. The isolation. At school, Lena barely spoke. She kept her head down, her thoughts swirling in her mind. Emma, her best friend, noticed immediately. "Okay, what's going on?" Emma asked at lunch, nudging her shoulder. "Nothing," Lena mumbled. "Lena." Emma's tone was serious now. "You've been acting weird. You don't talk as much. You look tired all the time. And I saw your hands shaking in class today." Lena sighed. She wanted to tell Emma. The words were right there, screaming inside her head. But if she said them out loud, then it would be real. And she wasn't ready for that. "I'm fine, Emma. Just stressed about school." Emma didn't look convinced, but she didn't push further. That night, Lena did something she had never done before. She pushed her dresser in front of her bedroom door. She felt ridiculous, but the moment it was in place, she could finally breathe. She sat on her bed, hugging her knees to her chest. Daniel hadn't done anything. He hadn't hurt her. But he was waiting. She could feel it. And if she didn't do something soon, she didn't know how far he would go. Lena couldn't keep living like this. The fear, the tension, the sleepless nights, it was consuming her. She needed to tell someone. But who? Her mother? No. She wasn't ready for that. What if she didn't believe her? A teacher? No. What if they told her mother before she was ready? Emma. Emma would listen. At lunch, Lena sat across from Emma, picking at her food. Her hands felt cold, even though the cafeteria was warm. "Okay, I can't take this anymore," Emma said, setting her juice box down. "Lena, something is wrong. And you need to tell me what it is." Lena's throat tightened. "It's stupid. If it's making you like this, then it's not stupid." Lena swallowed hard. This was her chance. "It's my stepdad." Emma's expression shifted instantly. "What about him?" Lena hesitated. Her heart pounded. "Say it. Just say it. He makes me uncomfortable." Emma's brows furrowed. "Like, how?" Lena opened her mouth. The words were right there. But then, fear took over. What if Emma didn't understand? What if she thought Lena was overreacting? She shook her head. "Never mind, it's nothing." Emma gave her a sharp look. "Lena. I'm serious. It's just, I don't know. Forget I said anything." Emma looked like she wanted to argue. But she didn't. She just nodded slowly. "Okay. But if you ever need to talk, you know I'm here, right?" Lena forced a smile. "Yeah, I know." That night, Lena lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She had almost told Emma. Almost. And now, she felt worse than ever. She had lost her chance. She was still alone. And Daniel was still waiting. Lena had never felt so trapped. Days passed, and the tension in the house grew thicker. She did everything she could to avoid Daniel coming home late. Locking her bedroom door, pretending to be asleep when he was around. But avoidance wasn't enough. She could feel him watching her. Waiting. One evening, Sarah had to work late again. Lena stayed in her room, her heart pounding every time she heard footsteps outside her door. At some point, she heard the doorknob turn. She shot up in bed, staring at the door. It didn't open. But it wasn't locked either. She had forgotten to lock it. Her breath caught in her throat as she saw the knob turn again. This time more forcefully. Then, a whisper. "Lena, are you awake?" "Daniel." Her whole body went numb. She couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. "I just want to talk." Lena scrambled out of bed and pushed the dresser against the door. Silence. Then, a soft chuckle. "Good night, sweetheart." Footsteps faded down the hall. Lena collapsed onto the floor, shaking. This was it. She couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. She needed to tell someone. She needed to get out. Lena didn't go to school the next day. She told her mother she wasn't feeling well. It wasn't a lie, her body ached from exhaustion, and her mind felt like it was running in circles. Sarah had been too busy to notice her daughter's deteriorating state. But that morning, she finally paused. "You've been so quiet lately," Sarah said, brushing Lena's hair behind her ear. "Are you sure you're okay?" For a brief moment, Lena wanted to tell her everything. She wanted to fall into her mother's arms and cry. But then, she pictured Daniel's smirk. "She won't believe you." Lena pulled away. "I'm fine, Mom. Just tired." Sarah sighed but didn't press further. And just like that, the moment was gone. That afternoon, Emma showed up at her house. "I called you, like, 5 times, Emma said, stepping inside. "I was about to report you missing." Lena managed a weak smile. "Sorry. I just wasn't feeling great." Emma studied her for a long moment. Then, she grabbed Lena's hands. "Lena. Please. Tell me what's wrong." Lena felt her chest tighten. "Not again. Not again. Don't shut down this time." She took a shaky breath. And finally, she said it. "It's Daniel." Emma's grip tightened. "What did he do?" Lena hesitated. "Nothing, yet." Emma frowned. "Then why are you scared?" Lena looked down. "Because I know he will." Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, she said, "You need to tell someone." Lena swallowed. "I'm scared, Em. I know, but you don't have to do this alone." Lena wiped at her eyes. "Who do I even tell?" Emma thought for a second. "My mom knows a teacher who helps kids in bad situations. Maybe we can talk to her first?" Lena hesitated, then nodded. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel completely alone. Lena sat in the small office, her hands clenched together so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Across from her, Ms. Carter, the school counselor, watched her with gentle patience. "You don't have to rush, Lena," Ms. Carter said softly. "Take your time." Lena had spent the whole morning trying to convince herself that this was the right thing to do. She had almost backed out twice. But Emma had stayed by her side. "You're not alone in this," Emma had whispered before they walked in. And now, here she was. No turning back. The words that changed everything. Lena inhaled deeply. Then, finally, she spoke. "My stepdad makes me uncomfortable." Ms. Carter nodded, encouraging her to continue. "He hasn't hurt me, but I think he's going to." Her voice shook, but she kept going. "He looks at me in ways that make my skin crawl. He touches me too much. He waits until my mom isn't home." Her throat tightened. "Last night, he tried to come into my room." Ms. Carter's expression remained calm, but her eyes darkened with concern. "Did he get inside?" "No," Lena whispered. "I blocked the door." A long silence filled the room. Then, Ms. Carter leaned forward. "Lena, thank you for telling me. You did the right thing." Lena swallowed hard. "What happens now?" Ms. Carter's voice was firm but reassuring. "I have to report this, Lena. For your safety." Fear struck Lena's chest. "To my mom?" "Yes, and to the right authorities." Lena felt like she couldn't breathe. "What if she doesn't believe me?" Ms. Carter reached out, gently placing a hand over Lena's. Then we'll make sure she does. The confrontation. That evening, Lena sat in the living room as Ms. Carter and a social worker spoke to her mother. Sarah's face was pale. This can't be true. Lena's stomach twisted. Daniel sat on the other side of the room, his expression calm. Sarah, this is insane, he said, shaking his head. She's confused. Lena clenched her fists. I'm not confused. Sarah turned to her daughter, her voice trembling. Lena, are you absolutely sure? Tears welled in Lena's eyes. Mom, please. You have to believe me. Daniel sighed. She's been distant ever since I moved in. This is just teenage rebellion. Lena looked at her mother desperately. Mom. Sarah met her daughter's gaze. And then, something changed. She saw it. The fear in Lena's eyes. The way her hands were shaking. The way she shrank away from Daniel. Even now. And suddenly, she knew. Get out, Sarah whispered. Daniel blinked. What? Get out of my house. Her voice cracked through the room like thunder. Lena felt her breath hitch. Her mother believed her. For the first time in weeks, Lena felt safe. Lena had spent weeks trapped in fear, convinced that silence was the safest option. She had told herself that if she ignored the problem, it would go away. That if she stayed quiet, she could protect her mother. That if she pretended not to notice, maybe, just maybe, nothing bad would happen. But silence had only made things worse. It had given Daniel power. It had made him bolder. And it had left Lena feeling completely alone. Speaking up had been the hardest thing Lena had ever done. She had spent countless nights debating whether to say something. What if no one believed her? What if it made everything worse? What if her mother chose Daniel over her? But in the end, she had found the strength to tell the truth. And the moment she did, everything changed. Her mother saw her. Her friends supported her. And most importantly, she was no longer alone. Silence had been her prison. Speaking up had set her free. Lena wasn't the only one who had struggled to speak. Many children and teenagers stay silent in situations like hers. Not because they don't want help, but because they're afraid. Afraid of not being believed. Afraid of the consequences. Afraid of ruining their family. For Lena, the biggest fear had been her mother's reaction. She had convinced herself that Sarah wouldn't believe her, that Daniel's charm had blinded her too much. And for a moment, she had been right. Sarah had hesitated. She had doubted. But in the end, she had listened. She had looked at her daughter. Really looked at her, and she had seen the truth. And that had made all the difference. Not every child has a parent who will believe them. That's why teachers, counselors, and family friends play such an important role. For Lena, Ms. Carter had been that person. She had listened without judgment. She had reassured Lena that she wasn't crazy, that she wasn't overreacting. And most importantly, she had helped Lena take the next step. Because telling the truth is hard, but knowing what to do next is even harder. Lena had needed someone to guide her through the fear. Someone who wouldn't dismiss her concerns. Someone who would stand by her, no matter what. And Ms. Carter had done just that. Every child deserves someone who will listen. And every adult has a responsibility to be that person. Sarah had always believed she was a good mother. She worked hard to provide for her daughter. She made sure Lena had everything she needed. She loved her deeply. But she had missed the signs. Looking back, she realized there had been warning signals, the way Lena avoided Daniel. The way she became quieter. The way she started locking her door. She had dismissed them as typical teenage behavior. She had assumed everything was fine. And that assumption had almost cost her everything. Sarah knew now that loving a child isn't just about providing for them, it's about listening. Watching, and being present. It's about paying attention when something feels off. Because children don't always know how to ask for help. Sometimes, their silence is their way of screaming for someone to notice. And as parents, it's their job to hear that silence. One of the most important lessons Sarah learned was that children need to feel safe enough to speak up. Lena had hesitated for so long because she was scared of how her mother would react. She was afraid of being dismissed. Afraid of causing problems. Afraid of being blamed. That fear shouldn't exist. Every child should feel like they can go to their parents without hesitation. Without fear. Without shame. And that starts with building trust. Children need to know that their words matter. That their feelings are valid. That they won't be judged or ignored. Because when a child is scared to speak, they become vulnerable to those who seek to harm them. And the most dangerous thing a child can feel is alone. For Lena, healing wouldn't happen overnight. There were still nights when she woke up in a panic, thinking she heard footsteps outside her door. There were still moments when she struggled to believe that she was truly safe. But every day, it got a little better. Because now, she had her mother by her side. She had Emma. She had Ms. Carter. She had people who believed her, who supported her, who reminded her that she was stronger than her fears. Lena had once thought that speaking up would destroy her life. Instead, it had saved it. Because the truth wasn't what broke her family. The truth was what set her free. Lena once thought that staying silent was the only way to protect herself. She feared that if she spoke up, no one would believe her. That if she told the truth, her world would fall apart. But she had been wrong. It wasn't the truth that destroyed things, it was silence. And when she finally broke that silence, she realized something powerful. She wasn't alone. She had people who loved her. People who believed her. People who were willing to fight for her safety. Sarah had made mistakes. She had ignored the warning signs. She had doubted for a moment. But when the truth was in front of her, she made the right choice. She didn't let fear or denial cloud her judgment. She chose her daughter over everything else. And that was what mattered most. Because when a child comes forward, the most important thing a parent can do is listen. Lena's story is not just her own. There are children everywhere who feel the same fear she once felt. Children who stay silent because they are afraid. Children who wonder if anyone would believe them. And that is why every family, every school, every community must be a place where children feel safe enough to speak. Because protecting children is not just a responsibility, it's a choice. A choice to listen. A choice to believe. A choice to act. Lena's journey wasn't over. She still had days when she felt anxious. She still had nights when she double-checked the locks on her door. But she was healing. Because now, she knew the truth. She was not weak. She was not powerless. She was brave. And most importantly, she was finally free.